good deal. We got, like I said, multiple locations, a historical tour. I'm setting up all kinds of equipment for everybody to do whatever the hell they want, and it's going to be fantastic. September 20th is the sanatorium down in Radford, Virginia, which these guys are going to love. It's a nice little place. I've been there a few times. You can definitely check that out. Message me if you want any more info. It's going to be great. These guys are going to love that one as well. But tonight, I've got Alan Wallace on from Off the Chain Paranormal. He's a cool little dude. He's got, a lot of cool experiences he wants to share, some great knowledge and info that he wants to get out to the public. So it's going to be awesome talking to him and hanging out. So without further ado, I'll bring him on. Welcome to Ghost Chat Radio, Alan.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it. Thanks so much for having me on tonight.
It's my pleasure. It's my pleasure. Now, where exactly are you from?
From Arkansas. We're located in north central Arkansas, and we're basically our group's located out of Batesville, Arkansas, which is the north central part of the state.
Excellent. And how long have you guys been a team?
Off the Chain Paranormal has been a team since about 2012, but I've been in paranormal investigating since about 2008. And so I was with a group prior to forming Off the Chain, a group called Casper, which was the Central Arkansas Society for Paranormal Research.
Yeah, I've heard about Casper. I haven't even heard of Off the Chain, but Casper was pretty popular for a little bit.
Yeah, that's where I started out, and the director there was Karen Schillings, and she's great. I mean, she was my mentor starting out, and then we just kind of we're still great friends and everything. We just she's still kind of doing her thing, and then I decided to go ahead and form my own group in 2012, which became Off the Chain. And we'll get into some areas. I'd like to think we're trying to think outside the box on a lot of investigations. The way we approach investigation is trying to think of it from a different approach and different stuff, and trying to incorporate some different things that maybe hasn't been tried before, or we haven't seen been tried before.
Yeah, and that's always good to try to think outside the box. There's so much has already been done, and obviously you want to try to further the research and get more answers on what's actually out there. And it's kind of hard if you're sticking to the same routine over and over and over.
Oh,
so, I mean, it's kind of cool to think outside the box. What kind of tactics do you typically use that you won't normally see other people do?
Some of the things we've kind of been getting into, we've been using an amplification system on investigation. We take some of the big speakers with us, and when we do have these EVP sessions, we'll hook up a big microphone to a speaker, and sometimes we've got some good results from it. It's still in its infancy stage. We're still working with that, but we're trying to see if we might can, when you're doing EVP sessions, you know as well as I do, sometimes they can be so faint, and we're trying to look for ways maybe to add amplification to that and to push the envelope on that a little bit.
Excellent. And has that been pretty good to you? Have you gotten some cool evidence of doing it that way, working with amplifications?
Yeah, so far, it has. We did some work with. The first time we tried it was at Fort Chaffee, down in the southern part of the state, and we did well over there. Fort Chaffee was there, showcased on Ghost Adventures some time ago, in 1980 or 1979. I'm sorry, when the Cuban refugees came over by 1,000 into Miami. They were essentially placed into Fort Chaffee. They were kind of a makeshift prison, and detained there until they figured out what they were going to do with them. So there was a lot of murders that took place there, a lot of satanic rituals, stuff like that, sacrifices and stuff, that took place there while they were actually incarcerated. And it's pretty a hotbed for paranormal investigation. So we tried to hit that. And we, using some of our amplification systems down there. We're also, getting into trying to, increase the EMF activity also on investigations, which I'm sure a lot of groups are out there doing that. Um, some of the things we've been trying to do with that is, maybe using like the plasma ball. I'm thinking about maybe trying to incorporate a Jacob's ladder into that so we can feed the EMF activity. And if you're lucky enough, you don't have to have a thunderstorm or a lightning storm during your investigation, which is always awesome. You don't always get that, but if you are, that really, really helps as well.
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely has an impact. Any kind of added electrical current within the atmosphere definitely has an impact on paranormal phenomena. What other types of things do you think, helps out the paranormal phenomenon besides the lightning?
On investigations, you in lots of places, especially when you research the history, you can tell that there's always if there's been a tragic event at multiple locations, and that's what's there's in the history of a location, there's always some type of event. But if the events have led to someone's demise in a tragic way or some kind of a tragic event, then you've got some residual hauntings that linger there. And we try to do a real good, extensive history of the location and see, and we're not the only groups that do this, of course, most everyone does, but we try to, to try to see if there's any way we can spark or ignite that residual activity, in anything we can try to think of, anything we're trying to do. Like, well, right now, in the infant stages of trying to do trying to get everything finalized, but I'm looking forward to doing an investigation at the actual site where Bonnie and Clyde was ambushed, where they were killed. And I've kind of been thinking along the lines of maybe trying to take a recording up there of gunshot activity, rapid gunfire, or something like that, and see what we could trigger at the actual site where Bonnie and Clyde were killed. So, that's some exciting things there.
It would be interesting to try to get something such as, Bonnie and Clyde on film or an EVP of something that would have happened, during their era, and maybe even some evidence that their legacy is just not a legacy, but it's something more. That would be interesting.
Yeah, especially at the ambush site where they were both killed together. I think that I couldn't think of a better place if you want to try to do a Bonnie and Clyde investigation. That would be the best place. Like I said, even if we could add some gunfire to it, maybe kind of try to recreate the atmosphere to some extent, something like that, then that's just going to be that much better. Hopefully, if we can get some good results from it.
Yeah. I think it might be a little hard to try to recreate the particular atmosphere because, no one knows much about Bonnie and Clyde. They know they were, robbers and they did a lot of cool stuff, but no one knows them on a personal level. There's nothing about them in that aspect. So you're trying to recreate something that may be a little hard.
Well, if everything works out, and I haven't been able to talk to this gentleman yet, but if I'm able to get to this point, I'm hoping maybe we will actually be able to take maybe a member of the family. His father was actually in the ambush team that killed Bonnie and Clyde, and I haven't talked to him yet, but I was going to see if maybe we could get with him and maybe have him accompany us on our investigation. And with that kind of connection, maybe since his father was actually involved in it, maybe we can do something in that area. Who knows? Because the paranormal and the paranormal science is just trying to figure out which angle or how you can take the hot poker sometimes and get your best response, out of it. And you just have to try different things. And the good thing about it, we can always, if we don't succeed the first time, we can always come back, and try a different approach.
Yeah, I think maybe if you could have someone that was part of the original ambush or part of something that has some kind of significance to the individuals in general, I think that may be a good tactic. But I do hope you convince him to do it, but that might be a little rough. Yeah, how would you do it?
It might be, it's going to be. We're trying to shoot for this maybe toward the fall, around the end of the year. Right now with the heat here in Arkansas, the heat getting hot, and a lot of the the buds coming out more and more at night, stuff like that. So that kind of interferes with our audio communication. So we try to suspend the outdoor stuff during the spring and summer months, as much as we can.
Yeah, that's great. What kind of other investigations have you worked on?
Let's see. We've been pretty much all over. We've done, one of our investigations we did last fall, we went to Maxwell Blades Theater of Magic in Hot Springs, Arkansas. And his theater is an extremely old theater. Actually, at one time, in its early heyday, it was a bordello / mortuary. So the bordello was upstairs, and the mortuary was downstairs. The funeral home was downstairs. So you had the two connected, so to speak. And so he allowed us to come in. He was gracious enough for us to come in, and we did a good investigation there. And some of the other places we've done, the Rialto Theater in Walton, Arkansas, which we go back there quite a bit. That's a good spot. The entire area that right around there, back in the early 20s and 30s, was controlled by a lot of gangsters and the mob and stuff like that. And so there were a lot of murders that took place, a lot of violence took place in that area, and that has really fueled the fire there. We've caught some really good EVPs. We've actually, when we were doing EVP sessions, we've actually heard audible voices, which is rare, because usually you don't hear them with your naked ear. You hear them on your recording system after you review your evidence later. And that's always been a really good hot spot. We're actually going to be going back there next month and trying some new stuff there. I think one of the things we're going to try there next month is, a lot of times in our photographs we have light anomalies or orbs, and a lot of groups. And I'm 60-40 on that. Sometimes I can say that I won't say that all light anomalies that come up are orbs or some of it can be dust, I'm sure. But one of the things we're going to try is to try to decontaminate the room first by putting an air purifier in there and trying to get as clean as we can so we can remove any type of dust contamination whatsoever, and then try to go ahead and do some recording and try that angle.
Yeah. And that would be cool to do that. If we can actually figure out how to compare some kind of energy orb with something, we could shed a little light on the whole mystery of the magical orb. But I think you can put an air purifier in there. It's still not going to be 100% effective.
Right, exactly. Yeah, it would be impossible to remove all the contaminants. But if we could, maybe do a 60-40 split on that, at least cut down on quite a great bit. Several years back, I had actually got some footage, and it was on one of the old Super 8 reels, and I've since lost that footage due to an accident. I wish I still had it, but I was able to actually capture an orb, a light anomaly, penetrating glass. It was outside. I was in a bed and breakfast in Heber Springs, Arkansas, and I had a camera I trained on one of the windows. It was just by accident, really, that we had gotten this, and there was a light anomaly, an orb from the outside of the window, and you could actually see it outside the window, and then penetrated the glass. I didn't realize I had that until a couple days later when I was reviewing the evidence. So, like I said, I no longer have that footage. So what I'm wanting to try now is to see if we can recreate that and capture that again, where you actually do have a light anomaly or penetrating glass. And so what we're going to try to do, and maybe even in that place up there, the Rialto Theater, is maybe put up a large sheet of plexiglass, have some different cameras on it, and see if we can actually recreate that, see if we can actually have it happen again. And hopefully, maybe enough times that we can.
That would be cool and get it to happen again. If it's traveling through a wall or some kind of window, I would honestly say that's definitely questionable in my eyes, because let's just face it, that thing can go through a window or a bug, So it's definitely questionable. Oh
yeah. It was. Like I said, when I captured the footage, it was lit up like orbs do, basically. And as like I said, a couple of days later is when I realized I had the footage. And when I slowed the footage down frame by frame, you could actually trace it from the outside of the window, and then as it came through, and then just disappeared. And so, so when I saw that, when I was reviewing the evidence and saw it for the first time, like I fell out of my chair, like that was the first time I'd done, and didn't even know that I had it. It was just totally by accident. So,
yeah, absolutely. Hey, besides your sound speaker that you're using for experimental purposes, what other kind of tactics have you used that you typically don't see, you don't even hear about?
Well, one thing I think we're going to be trying is, and this is a household item, that most everybody has. I have a little dog. He's a Shih Tzu, and he is very sensitive to paranormal. He will bark at anything in the world, a butterfly. He'll bark at a bird. He'll bark at anything and try to take it on. But when we plug in our electric skillet, I guess that thing emits a really strong, it feeds the EMF activity really strong. And when we plug that in, he begins to look at all four corners of the room. He totally reacts. He gets completely scared, starts shaking, and he actually hides under the bed. And he will not come back out until it's unplugged, and I guess the atmosphere is back to normal. And so that got me to thinking maybe about taking that to an investigation and plugging it in and seeing what we could have come on the other end of it, at an actual place, and see if that might actually feed, which I never thought of that before until we'd seen this happen. And this has happened many times. And maybe just taking that and seeing if that might actually help to tackle maybe like a Jacob's ladder or a plasma ball and feeding that EMF activity.
Yes, it might be cool to check it out. It might work as an EM pump. Who knows?
Right.
I think it would be interesting to try to check that out and see what happens. Absolutely. Now, what kind of how do you do your EVP sessions? I mean, what kind of questions do you come up with, and how do you come up with them for each particular investigation?
Well, the EVP session is something that there are times when we can spend all night trying to get an EVP and not get anything, and there are times when then it will just come automatically. I have had my best success rate with EVP sessions when females were involved for some reason. We were at the Allen House in Monticello, Arkansas, which the Allen House has been showcased on several different ghost shows, Haunting, Paranormal Witness. The Ghost Hunters actually went through there. And so we were there several years back, and we were conducting an EVP session there in the Allen House. And this was the first time that I had actually, this was back early in the conception of Off the Chain, and we're still kind of learning the ins and outs on EVPs. And we're conducting an EVP session there in the parlor, and the owner of the house, Mark Spencer, we've been doing an EVP session for probably 25, 30 minutes, really, and I didn't really know if I had anything. You don't, most of the time you can't even hear it with your ear until you review your digital recorders later, then you realize you have something.
Yeah.
But in the parlor, my wife was wearing it was like a speaker, amplified speaker that attached to her ear, and it was more like a parabolic microphone, is really what it was, so where she could hear the sounds were amplified, but it was very small. And as we were doing the EVP section, Mark Spencer, the two of the old ladies that used to live in the house, that are lost and been gone for 67 years, their name was Caddy and Liddell, and Mark Spencer said, why don't you ask Caddy if her and Liddell get along? And so when we asked that question, it was, my wife said, did you hear that? I heard a yes. None of the rest of us heard it, but she was wearing the amplifier. And we did the recorder later, and you could definitely hear it. when I'd asked the question, I got an actual response to my answer to my question that we got, and that was really good. One of the things we were wanting to do, we haven't done it yet, is go back to that location. Actually, one of the women, Liddell, she had committed suicide on Christmas Eve. I want to say it was 1947, if I'm not mistaken. I want to say 1947, Christmas Eve 1947, that she committed suicide the night before Christmas Eve. And one of the things we were thinking about doing, if we could, and if we could get, the Spencer permission and everything, we'd like to go back there and maybe recreate like a little Christmas party with all the things, the Christmas music, maybe from the old time Christmas music, stuff like that. Recreate the scene and then do another EVP session and see what we can get at that point.
Would be interesting. What kind of recorders do you typically use?
We use digital recorders, Sony digital recorders, Olympus digital recorder. We use the cassette recorder, the old-fashioned cassette recorder, and then the mini cassette recorder. So, we use the digital and the old-school recorders, pretty much.
Excellent. And which one would you prefer? What would you recommend? I find the analog recorders do tend to record a lot better, but digital recorders are more popular. I really can't complain too much.
The digital recorders are a whole lot easier as far as transferring your media to your computer or for whatever. It's really because you have your USB ports. But the old time recorders are good. I mean, they still have the Christmas and the sound, and sometimes they'll pick up stuff that have 400 or 500 feet of cable, which we run, which that takes quite a bit of time. But it's well worth it when you get done. We have that way we can run cameras for the entire night of the investigation. I mean, it runs the entire time. They're plugged in, which we don't have any battery drainage, which battery drainage can be a headache. A lot of paranormal investigators know you'll have your stuff completely charged to go to an investigation, and everything starts drawing the energy off your batteries. And we have a full camera DVR system along with our recorders that we run. And then we have all the rest of the basic equipment, the laser grid, use a parabolic microphone that we walk around with. We have a Sony camcorder, digital camcorder, plus a Samsung digital camcorder. So we do quite a bit of filming. We try to get a 360 as best we can on the location with the film equipment we have. And one of the piece of equipment we have just now tried, we've had excellent results with, is the GoPro camera, which is real popular now. Everybody's getting the GoPro. So I've got the GoPro Hero 3, and it has a mouse you can put on your hat or your chest, so it can pretty much see anything you're looking at, And it has excellent stone footage, and so we're starting to incorporate a lot of that kind of stuff now.
Yeah. Now, does your DVR have the audio on it as well? Do you use it?
The DVR system I have does not have the audio on it. I'm going to upgrade to the audio, but I usually have a digital recorder sitting in that room. Wherever a camera is, we always have some sort of recording device in there. And but I'm going to really kind of upgrade my cameras, totally redo my camera system and have the audio in there. And they're infrared, so they can see in total darkness. And it's still, even if it's a really good camera system, even though it can come out a little grainy sometimes, especially in the dark. Even the best infrared can still come out a little grainy. But it does a wonderful job. But as of right now, those particular cameras don't have the audio. But like we do have digital recorders in there with them, and in case we do pick up something or hear something like that.
Yeah. My DVR has the audio, the audio cameras as well, and the audio on it sucks. I ain't gonna lie. It's just horrible quality.
Well, I was wanting to ask you about that. I wasn't sure how good the audio actually did or not.
It's not the greatest. They're not high-quality microphones. Everything sounds like an echo. They're not the greatest for the DVR system.
Oh, okay. Okay.
So that's something to keep your options open for that. It's not great. Don't waste your money on it too much if you don't need to.
Right. Yeah, well, that's good. I'm glad you said that, because really, we put digital recorders in there with it, and those have worked really well. So we may just stick with that then, because like I said, if the audio isn't that great, upgrading can be a little costly.
Yeah, it's definitely costly, especially when it comes to cameras and DVRs. I mean, a DVR alone is going to run you every bit of $800 there and about, between 5 and 8, I would say.
Right.
I'm not talking top of the line, but I'm also not talking, one you could pick up at some toy store either. I'm talking a fairly good one. They're going to run you a lot of money, and to go ahead and get an upgrade, I mean, you could spend thousands of dollars.
Oh yeah, and at this point, I have at this point, getting back and looking at everything that we have purchased and planning to purchase, it adds up. But it's a passion that just gets in your blood, and I'm getting to the point now I'm almost going to have to buy a trailer to haul everything I've got on investigation, because I love it, and it's wonderful, and we have so much fun. But when you start doing the putting all of your cameras up, running all your cables, and which takes a good hour and a half sometimes to run your cables and to get everything set up, and then go ahead and after that do your investigation, and then 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning you start your teardown, and that your teardown sometimes can be as long.
A whole lot longer than the actual setting up.
Yeah,
taking all that crap up, because I mean, with DVRs you say you got a 4-channel, right?
Right.
Yeah, I got an 8-channel. Wow. I don't use 8. Well, I've got a 4, an 8, and a 16, but I only use my 8-channel. That's the only one I really bring it. But half the times I only use up to 6 cameras. I really don't get into all 8 of them, because you got to keep in mind you got to review all that crap. One camera at a time.
Exactly.
But I always get the main parts and so forth and so on. But yeah, sometimes I mean when you're dealing with multiple levels of building, and you're running 300 feet of cable to this camera down in the basement, and another 400 of cable out to the other wing of the building, and when it comes to tearing down, you got to wind all that up, take all the tape back off, because everything's got to get taped down, and so forth and so on. It takes a long time.
Absolutely. You know exactly what I'm talking about. We go to there's a center. Well, I can't say much about it because it's owned by the state of Arkansas. They don't want a lot of information released about it. But we go to an old hospital in Arkansas. It's about 4 stories, about 4.5, 5 stories, and it used to care for people who had the tuberculosis back in the day, which was a major plague, back on our country back then. And between 9 and 10,000 people actually died there of tuberculosis. And the last time we went there, we ran cables from the basement all the way up to the 4th floor. And it seems like you've got about 10 miles of cable run. It really is. Realistically, you don't have that much, but it really seems like it when you start spreading that cable out. And I'm trying to upgrade my cables as well to try to get better quality cables. And I've got. It's nothing for one camera to run 160 feet of cable or 120 feet of cable without even thinking about it. Just on one camera, and then there you go, 3, and just depending. And but you never know. The end result is you'll sit there and review it camera at a time, and you just don't know what's going to pop up there.
Oh yeah, and sometimes you could sit and review it for 2 or 3 days and get nothing, and then on the 4th day of reviewing it, you wind up one little smidget of evidence, and it's like, yes, I got something. And then you get excited and call everyone up, you got to check this out.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And it's fun. And that's what I tell my group. I say, we're friends, and we love to go out to do it and hang out and have fun. And when it ceases to be fun, if it gets to be like more of a job, then that's what we'll call it quits. But you don't see that happening. I mean, it's just getting worse and worse on us. We just coming back in at 5 or 6 in the morning, 7 o'clock, 8 in the morning. When you leave when it's daylight, you come back sometimes when it's daylight. And rainy nights, cold nights, rainy nights, and everything. It's great,
Oh yeah, it's definitely fun. It's exciting, and it's also helping people at the same time. I'm gotten some clients calling up because they're in some kind of weird danger. They think they are, and you get to put a little bit of peace in their mind, and that's always a benefit.
Exactly. And, an interesting thing about that is it's beginning to be more and more conscious to me that just about everyone you meet or everyone you know, at some point in their life, at some point, they've had some sort of a paranormal experience, whether it was by accident, whether it was on purpose, or whatever. They've had something in their life where it left them scratching their head, and they've never forgotten.
Yeah, absolutely. What do you put when you put up your digital recorders? Do you set them right on the camera?
No, we set it back a little ways. It's not just right on top of it. It's probably it can vary, just depending on where I think we might possibly get some audio contamination if possible. But it will vary. Try not to put it right on top of it, but just maybe a short distance away. And because sometimes the sound can come from different directions, which you just have to be lucky enough to roll the dice and hope that you get everything still. But like you say, you have a 6 or 8 camera DVR system. I have the 4-camera DVR system, but then I also incorporate Sony HD digital camera that I set on a tripod, and then a Samsung digital camcorder that I also set on a tripod. And so that gives me that they're really quick, easy to tear down, as opposed to the DVR system. But if you haven't used the GoPro cameras in your investigating, now they're very expensive. They are for like you get their underwater housings to go for them, and that's the one that I carry on me during the investigation. And I can set it to either film all night, or I can set it to take pictures every 5 seconds, every 10 seconds, every 30 seconds. The last investigation I was on, I just set it to take pictures like every 30 seconds. And we actually got some pretty good pictures out of that. I'll tell you, I've got the pictures sent to a friend of mine he's with the Expedition Unknown group in Memphis, and he has works with film software and stuff like that. And we had taken a picture. I'd probably taken 300 pictures that night. We were at the old hospital, and we were on the 4th floor. Well, it took pictures. We were on every single floor. But when I got home and started reviewing the pictures, we were standing in a group, all of us, and it had taken a picture of us standing in the group. And in the center of the group was what looked exactly like an X-ray picture, or like you were looking at a skeleton in an X-ray. That's exactly what it looked like. And it was standing right in the middle of us. And the picture was taken by the GoPro camera. And I showed it to the other team members. They couldn't make any sense of it. I tried to debunk it, tried to think, well, what could it be? So anyway, I'll send it to a friend of mine to have it analyzed and run through the software to see what it picks up. But ironically, we were actually standing outside of the old X-ray room that was used as their X-ray room back when, and you were talking in the 40s and the 50s. It hasn't been an X-ray room in, I've said 40 or 50, 60 years. The equipment's all gone out of there. But I thought, how ironic that here we have a picture that looks like you're looking at a skeleton in an X-ray photo, and we're standing outside the old X-ray room at the old hospital. And it looked pretty good. I'm still waiting to get the final analysis on it, may leave me. It may be one of those things we can't debunk, but we walk away scratching our heads, And if we can debunk it, that's what we want to do. I mean, if at all we can debunk anything, we want to debunk it, get it out of the way, and delete it if it can be explained whatsoever. But if we every effort that we can to try to debunk it, and we can't, then that's great. We leave it in our evidence file and go to the next.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Why don't we cut to our first commercial break of the evening? When we come back, we will hear more.
Okay.
Excellent.
And you're on commercial.
All right. I shall return in a minute. Sup, everyone. Welcome back to Ghost Chat Radio. I am your host, Paranormal Rebel, Jason Stanton. I do have Alan still in the house. We're chatting about techniques with gear and, different ways of setting it up, how to set it up to I'm not saying it's going to be effective to everybody, but it's a good starting point if you're just getting into this particular industry. So we're continuing on. We were discussing cameras and, recorders on setting them up next to the cameras and how far away and how much of a room you get. And one question that came to mind was, have you ever gotten any kind of visual evidence off of your DVR that correlated with the recorders?
I've been using the DVR system probably for, I'll say about 2 years now. Other than just an enormous amount of light anomalies or orb footage, so far, we haven't picked up the gold in the smoking gun of the full-bodied apparition yet on that, which, if it was easy, you'd get tired of it quick. But I haven't picked up anything as far as like any type of full body apparition or anything on the DVR system yet. I haven't really done well there yet. But as we keep going to different investigations, it keeps being more of a tech challenge on where to place the cameras and everything. We're going. It's a revolving door, and it's a never-ending learning process. I constantly try to think of things, new ways to put the cameras, new places to put the cameras. We were trying to add a little bit more of exterior lighting. We try to go on investigations. I know most groups try to go completely dark on investigations if they can, and that's great. It adds to the atmosphere. But paranormal is paranormal, and it can happen in broad daylight as well as a fully lit room. It doesn't necessarily have to be completely dark. I know many ghost investigators that have done just as well to investigating during the daytime as they have at night. With my infrared cameras, the less light they have, the more grainy they do get, but they do very well. Even with that, in total darkness. Trying to correlate the audio, the digital recorders with the video. I haven't. I'm still working on that. We will pick up stuff on the digital recorders with that. What's that? Where did that come from? We try not to contaminate the areas of the camera. If we do walk into it, we try to tag it, saying we're cutting in. What I'm doing now, and what I did at the old hospital, which it was pretty much dark, I tried to put the old exterior lighting into the wall. For those hallways were just voraciously long, if you can imagine old hospital hallways. And so what I did in those areas, I had the camera in all four stories and one in each hallway, facing a different direction. And what I tried to do is put some exterior lighting at the very end of the hallway on each end. It kind of creates the ultimate, to catch if a shadow figure or anything did dart across, we would capture it. Of course, which is the case with some. Unfortunately, you don't. It's just, once in a great while when you're reviewing your stuff, you will see something or hear something, it's still an ongoing process where I'm just continually learning and try to put camera angles different places. But I'm going to get more into adding more light as opposed to taking it away from. Because there again, like I said, I know many investigators who's done broad daylight investigation. There's really nothing in the verbatim that says you have to go lights out or completely dark for an investigation. It does the atmosphere. It does make it more fun. But I've seen things paranormal happen in broad daylight. I'm sure you have in rooms. I've actually, they're in the Rialto Theater there in Morrilton. The cast members who work there have told me numerous times when they had the auditorium completely packed for production, where they were putting on a Broadway-style play, that they've had things happened there with a full, they showed a full theater of people, and the place was completely lit up. So if there's no rhyme or reason to it, it can happen anytime, anywhere, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think, day or night kind of determines whether or not if you're going to get more paranormal phenomena. I think you can be just as effective during the day as well as at night. In all honesty, I think a lot of the video footage you get is going to be it's going to be better evidence during the day. And the reason why I say that is because everything's going to be well lit up. If you capture a shadow, you can determine exactly where the basis of that shadow is coming from.
Right.
It's definitely not going to be from, car headlights driving down the road or anything like that, casting off a lamp or something like that. So, I mean, it's going to make it a little bit more interesting and a better evidence if you do get anything.
Absolutely. I'm not sure how. I'm sure your DVR system's the same way. My camera system is if I turn my cameras on and the lights are completely on and it's all well lit, they're perfectly. It's color. It's completely perfect color. But if I put it in a room where there's no light and it's using the infrared, then it goes to black and white. So it can be, And with the graininess there, you still have a little bit of question. There you start adding your own kind of contamination in there. But it's like I said, never-ending process where we'll just continue to learn how much light to add, how much to take away, how much we want. And but there again, like we just said, so the spirits manipulate how you perceive them. I mean, it's pretty much going to be up to them. If it's a fully lit room, if it's a fully packed out auditorium, or if it's just you by yourself in an old hospital, it's going to be totally up to them. They don't react on cue, so it's going to be totally up to them how you see them or how they want you to see them, or when they do anything or something goes bump in the night, which still adds to the mystery of why we keep doing it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. But what keeps driving you to continue to go out and research?
Well, as we continue, we're constantly looking for new investigations, new areas of paranormal to look at, new locations to go to. And one thing that we're getting into is film editing. What we're doing now, like our investigations now, and we've been doing them the last half a dozen investigations. We kind of make like a mini documentary now of our investigations. Like for instance, and we post them on YouTube, and we have the videos on our album section on our Facebook page.
Yeah.
So every location we go to now is we're making like a video diary, of a mini movie or a mini documentary, where we can show the history of the town, show the history of the location, interview the staff that works there. They tell us about the paranormal experiences that they've had prior to us coming, and then we welcome the staff at the locations to investigate with us. That happens many times, and they love that. So we will interview them before the investigation starts, and then we'll ask them the ever-present question. And we have special guests sometimes that show up. They've never been on a ghost hunt before. We'll interview everybody before the investigation starts, ask them universal questions. Do you believe in ghosts? Most everybody. We have, like the last investigation, we had a couple that said they didn't, really. And by the end of the investigation, when it was all over, we interviewed everybody again, and they were scratching their head, or they were a believer. So we're getting into film editing, and we're making some mini documentaries of our investigations. And we're eventually working on maybe doing a full-length documentary, paranormal documentary. Maybe encompass a lot of different locations in the one documentary. Especially like I said earlier, like the Bonnie and Clyde thing. We're trying to get that working maybe this fall or next year sometime. And so that's been a lot of fun. And the driving force is just to continue to look for new ways to capture the paranormal, because science has caught up with the paranormal. I mean, if we were going to be doing this in the 50s and the 60s, I mean, we are even before, even the 70s, or 80s even for that matter, we don't have that we did not have the equipment then that we've got now, and you weren't able to bring your footage to, like today. We have with our DVR system, we can put all of our DVR footage right onto our laptop. We can put it on Facebook within 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Back 50, 60 years ago, 30, 40 years ago, you didn't have that. And of course, even the cameras weren't near as good. Your camcorders, if you had one, was as big as a shoebox, if not bigger. You put on your shoulder, and it was you were really, and they really were. There weren't that many paranormal investigators there are now. But science has caught up with the paranormal. I'm glad of it. The new equipment that's coming out, constantly trying to keep in touch with that. Like for instance, the GoPro thing, the GoPro stuff is great. Great camera, fits in the palm of your hand, stunning footage, and you can walk around with it everywhere. It has audio on it. And a lot of jokesters out there that do manipulate their stuff. And, I said it's just, I was talking to a guy the other day who was a total non-believer. And I told him, I said, well, all the video footage in the world, the best video footage and the best audio footage in the world won't convince you. But if you was to go on an investigation with us and you had your own personal experience that left you scratching your head, and only you knew that there was no explanation for that, then you would probably be a believer. And he agreed with that.
Yeah. Yeah, I think one of the reasons why everything is so questionable these days, and we still have skeptics, is because even though we have advanced in the paranormal field, it's still kind of brand new. All these gadgets we walk around with now, all these gizmos, I mean, they're brought in from other fields. They're really not designed for paranormal investigating. It's all experimental yet. And I think we're still trying to search for that right tool that is 100%, reliable. That's saying, all right, if this reacts to it, it's definitely a ghost. And so far, we don't have that tool yet. But I think we're close. I think we're on the breaking point.
Oh, yeah, I agree. I totally agree. It's, and it's every year that goes by, there's something new, or a better camera, a better camcorder, or now getting into full spectrum. We're wanting to get more into the full spectrum area. Have you gotten into the full spectrum area as far as your group yet?
Yeah, I've got one camera, one handheld camera that's full spectrum. And I was thinking about buying one full spectrum camera for my DVR. A lot of people, this is the interesting thing about full spectrum. Everybody seems to, they like to build their own things, which is cool. That's fantastic. You can build your own full spectrum camera. It's no big deal. But they only add the ultraviolet and the IR lights into it. If you do that, it's not full spectrum, people. Not at all. It doesn't cover the whole spectrum, light spectrum. That's what makes it full spectrum. Full spectrum, it covers all spectrum. You have IR light, you have ultraviolet light, and you have visible light. You have to cover all those bases in order for it to be full spectrum. And a lot of people tend to not realize that.
Exactly, because like I said, there's so many, you can buy the lights individually, and like you're saying, a lot of people just buy a couple of them, or just one, and think that they're getting the full spectrum, the 360 of the full spectrum, and they're not.
No. And they want, I've people ask me, I brought in my full spectrum out a couple times, and they've asked me, they said, Jay, why is your full spectrum so bright? And I tell them, I say, because the light that you're seeing is the visible light. You have to have that in order for it to be full spectrum. It's plain and simple. The UV and the IR, you're not going to see that good. The lights will light up, but you're not going to light up a room to your eye. But when you get into the visible light, the visible light area of the spectrum, and there's like 4 different colors you got to have in there. Those are going to light up a room.
Right. So have you done pretty well so far with your full spectrum? Have you got some stuff on there that's made you scratch your head with that?
You do get some interesting things. One thing that I found was full spectrum. You're better off just leaving your camera if you're using a video recorder or a digital camera. It doesn't matter what you're using. If it's full spectrum, your best bet is just to put it on a tripod and let it go. Don't walk around with it, because it just gets all fucked up. Everything gets blurry and shit.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I try to do in most of my equipment, with the exception of the GoPro camera, is leave everything stationary and just walk away from it.
Yeah.
And by walking away from it, you just never know what you're going to get at all. And it's just when you sit down and start reviewing, like I do, when you sit down and start reviewing, you just never know what's on there.
Yeah, you never know. And sometimes you don't get, well, a lot of times you don't get nothing, but, sometimes you do get that little bit of evidence that is 100% blows your mind away, and it's like, holy shit, what the hell is that? And that's what makes it worth it.
Absolutely. I mean, like I said, we have it on our footage so far. We haven't captured, the full body apparition where it's walking across or anything like that. We have caught, the shadows. Of course, everybody gets shadows, the light anomalies, the potential shadow type figures, that kind of stuff, and you look at it and you start trying to account for your team members at that point. You start backtracking and all this kind of stuff, and you try to debunk it every which way you can. But like I said, we just keep trying to constantly trying to revolutionize the way we do it, not try to do the same thing all the way. There's the basics you always do the same way, but you're always looking for a new way to try to put your stuff, where to put your stuff, new way to put your stuff, new angles, maybe higher tripods, maybe lower tripods, magnetic sticks to the walls. We've gotten some lights now that almost look like something Batman would carry. Got them at Walmart, and they have magnets on them, so we're able to stick them in the walls, in the corners, up and above and down below, in places where a flashlight just can't go sometimes. And that's added a lot to our footage on our DVR system and to the Sony and the Samsung digital camera stuff, and that's helped quite a bit.
Yeah. Flashlights are really good. Now, a lot of people, we're going to get into the questionable piece of evidence that people tend to do. They see TV and they do the flashlight trick. They watch it a little bit. And personally, I don't mind doing it. I don't mind people doing it, but a lot of people are really trashing it and completely saying that it's not any good. my only argument with that whole thing of why I can look at it and say, yeah, it can be used as good evidence if you use it correctly. But it goes into. I mean, a lot of people use geophones. Geophones is something that picks up vibration, right? Nothing intense, nothing big. But people will rely on that and say, oh, that's good evidence. But the flashlight trick, same fucking thing, it's just picking up vibration. It isn't any good to these people, and I always ask why. Why is it good when it's a geophone, but not something as stupid as a flashlight? Yeah.
Well, we do the flashlight thing from time to time, and I'll tell you, the flashlight thing I think I use more as just a trigger object, is like a prop object or something. There was one occasion, though, that left me scratching my head on the flashlight thing. We were up at the Woodruff-Fontaine Mansion in Memphis, and I'll tell you more about that. We had a wild night up there one time. We had the director there, one of the directors of the Woodruff-Fontaine, the wife was there, the full team was there, and we had two of the screw-top flashlights like you get. But what I do a little extra on that. I wrap, we screw the flashlights to where they will barely come on and off. But then I go ahead and I leave them in their case, and I wrap them up with a towel, and I'll set them on a very secure foundation. But again, I'm not saying that we're having paranormal turn this on by no means, but that night particularly left me scratching my head because of the way we did it. We set the flashlights up, and it probably took 15, 20 minutes before they came on. And once they started coming on, then I started asking, once we thought we were talking to a spirit that lived in the house, a man that had lived in the Woodruff-Fontaine years and years before. His name was Elliot. And according to legend, he didn't like women very much. He let women get attacked there with the Fontaine. Well, anyway, as we were doing the flashlight session, I asked him to turn it on the count of 3. And I've got the people there who had never seen the flashlight session before, and especially the director. And on the count of 3, it came on. Then I counted again to say, count of 5, turn it on, turn it off. Well, then it turned it off. I said, okay, on the count of 5, turn it on. When I hit 5, it came on. So then I did a series of counting. You know, I still wasn't completely convinced. Well, I'm still not, but every time that I would count a certain number, I might count 5, it would come on. I might count 3, then it would come on. Every time I would tell him to turn it on on count of 3, if I turn him on, turn it on count of 5, it comes. Every single time he counted. And this happened repeatedly. And the director, she thought that was great. You know, that was the first time she'd seen it. And I was actually even scratching my head that night a little bit. I was telling you, I've done it before, but never had it ever come on every single time I told him, like, turn it on a count of 5, turn it on a count of 3, turn it on a count of 4. I would even mix up the counting so it wouldn't be 5 every time, but 4 every time. So, did Elliot turn it on? Who knows, you know. But it was a scratch-your-head type of session, at least that one time, you know. But yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. Most of the time when we do that, it'll come on and off by itself, you know, anytime. And, so, you know, like you're saying with the geophone, you know, it's vibration, you know.
Yeah, that's basically how the flashlight's going to work. It's going to, you know, topic of the vibration is going to come on if there is a vibration. You know, it's just going to move just right to make that connection. But the same token, when it comes to any device that I use, I always like to get evidence on multiple devices. I just don't rely on one. If I'm doing a flashlight trick, I'll have a K2 meter and a millimeter set up somewhere in the room. And I'll try to correlate each one of those particular devices so that, yes, if I get evidence on the flashlight, you know, the K2 meter might go off, or, you know, the millimeter might go off, or I have a static box on, you know, somewhere next to it, and that'll go off, or something else besides just the flashlight coming on. So then that way I can look at it and say, okay, now I might have something, or I might get an EVP or something like that at the time that the flashlight goes on. And that's what I like. I like multiple devices being, you know, going off at the same time. Or going up on cue. I'll give you a prime example. I did an asylum last year, actually. And we had a millimeter, a K2 meter, and a flashlight right in between them. You know, everyone was spaced about a foot apart. And whatever was in there was using the flashlight, more or less. And I'm like, all right, can you please, you know, make the lights on this device? And I didn't say what device. I just pointed, you know, go up or whatever the case may be, and it did it right on cue. You know, and no matter which device I pointed to, it did do something to that device. It might have made the temperature drop on the millimeter, or, you know, the K2 meter would go up, or whatever the case may be, but it did it on cue. Wow. But it preferred to, you know, to use the flashlight. So I can honestly say, okay, that particular flashlight session, I can accept as evidence. Why? Because it just wasn't, you know, based on that. You know, it did things on cue. It made other devices, you know, go up or down depending on whatever I pointed at. So, I mean, that's cool when you get things like that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, when you can verify it through, like, what you're saying, like 3 different devices, then, yeah, I mean, you're definitely, like, scratching your head thinking, okay, you know, 3 different devices have cooperated with what I'm seeing here, yeah. Oh, yeah, that's a good idea, actually. That's really good.
Yeah. It definitely makes the skeptics into believers when they see things like that. I'm not going to lie, because, like I said, you're pointing, you're saying, make this one, make that one, or make that one. And you're pointing, and it goes up, so, you know. It's definitely a more interesting way of doing it, and more honest, too, because, you know, if I get a K2 blip, if I'm just walking around or just sitting down, you know, watching it, and you only get one K2 blip, is that really evidence? You know?
Right.
But, you know, if you have a millimeter and a K2, and, you know, you get a blip, and then, you know, 2 seconds later by the door you have the millimeter set up, and that goes out, and it's like, okay, something was here, but it might have left the room. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly. I've got the millimeter. But I don't have the K2, which actually, and I don't know why I haven't gotten one by now. But that's a really good idea. I haven't really thought about that before by utilizing the two, the millimeter and the K2 like that, and the flashlight. That's a really good idea.
Yeah. I also have static boxes too, but they're kind of gay. I'm not gonna lie. They work. Don't get me wrong, but they're kind of gay. I set those up in hallways. That's what I normally do with those. I set them up in a hallway. I put a camera on them, and like 6 of them, something like that. And I've gotten one time where if right one after another, each static box would go off. As if something was walking down the hallway, and I got that on camera. So, which is kind of cool, but they're really not worth the money. You won't realize.
All right. Now, have with your team and everyone, has anyone ever come home with an attachment from your team?
My one investigator, my co-founder of my particular team, he's known for getting attachments. I don't know why. I guess I throw him to the wolves a lot, I guess. But, yeah, it's happened. I've gotten a couple myself.
Yeah, we've investigated a lot of places, and we tend to go back to a lot more. But of all the places we have picked up one attachment one time, and it attached itself to my wife.
Yeah.
In 24 hours of returning home from that investigation, it began, and it just preyed on my wife and attacked her, and it was a horrible time. For about 2 weeks, just something like that, 2 or 3 weeks. And then, then it ended. And I've been back to that location many times since then. I never had another attachment following home that I know. But just, it was all ironic that one place, and we're going there next month, actually, going back to it. It's the Rialto Theater in Wolves in Arkansas.
Yeah.
But, you would think, as many places as we go, that I'd pick them up all the time. But it was only just that one time. But there again, we could still do it next month. You never know; it could just happen at any time.
I think it's the specific energy that one puts off. Yeah, everybody puts off a different type of energy. Everybody, has a different type of energy. I guess you can say that. They generate off of themselves, and I think specific entities are attracted to different types of energies from humans. And when they get that energy, it's like trying to trying to throw a crackhead in a rehab. It's just not going to work too well for a little bit. And, it just winds up attaching you that way. That's what I think, in my honest opinion. But you never know. I mean, I don't know. That's one thing that we still have as researchers, still have to try to look into and figure out why these things are attaching themselves to people.
So has any of your team ever been attacked before?
My one guy's been scratched, but as far as attack, I honestly can't say. I mean, nobody's ever gotten their ass kicked. No one's ever gotten thrown downstairs or anything like that. I got sick once, really, really sick. I kind of brought it on myself, and I know I did. But anyway, I got real lightheaded, real nauseous. My skin just turned white as a ghost, and I didn't have to leave the investigation, but I had to leave the building. I had to get outside for, 20 minutes or so to get a little air and get a little snack in me before I continued the investigation. But as far as seriously getting injured, that hasn't happened to anyone that I've seen. Like I said, my one friend has been, my one investigator has been scratched, several times actually, but he's never been seriously injured. Right.
I was talking to you earlier about that, about the old hospital that we go to and the house the tuberculosis patient. One night, right before we were about to go on an investigation there one time, this has been about a year ago, a little over a year ago, we don't use psychics in our team or anything like that. None of our team members are sensitive, anything like that. But we did have an acquaintance that was a sensitive to spirit, and she actually did not accompany us up, or go with us up there to that investigation at all. She never went on any of our investigations. Yeah. But before we left to go to that investigation, she said there will be something up there that is going to try to hurt you or your team, and be careful. And I didn't really think too much about it, took it with a grain of salt. And it could have all been coincidence. I'm not, I'm want to just debunk, and we're people of science rather than, first and see what we can debunk. But she had said that, and it kind of stuck in the back of my mind, and who knows. But as the night progressed during the investigation, I fell down a flight of stairs. I didn't feel like I was pushed or anything like that, but the next I was walking down the stairs, next thing I knew, I was flying forward.
Okay.
A little while later, my wife fell down a flight of stairs. Then after that, one of our other team members grabbed herself because she almost fell down a flight of stairs. Now, I'm not saying that we were pushed by unseen spirits or unseen hands, but talking about, it did seem kind of odd that the sensitive had said that, and then two of our team members and almost one other fell down the flight of stairs, and so we had that happen.
Yeah.
Now, when I was one of my favorite locations to go to in Memphis. And Memphis is really a haunted town. It's wonderful. But one of my favorite places in Memphis is the Woodruff Fontaine Mansion in Memphis, Tennessee. And it was showcased on Ghost Hunters, I want to say January or February this year. They went through there. And of course, I had been back in there years before, several times. Started in about 2009, I think was the first year I started going through there. And when I was first started going, had gotten into the paranormal investigating, I was with Casper, which was a Central Darkness Society of Paranormal Research.
Yeah.
And I just started with them, and we had gone to the Woodruff Fontaine there in Memphis. And that particular night, it was just me and the director, the woman who oversaw the place, and one other team member was there that night. And I hadn't been in this very long, and I was taking pictures. I was just taking still pictures, left to right, of everything. And she was giving us a tour, actually, of location. And we had gotten up into Molly's room, which is the most haunted room in the mansion. And the director was standing out. So she had long blonde hair, and she was standing outside the bedroom, outside Molly's room in the foyer there. And she was just standing there, wasn't moving around or anything. And the female member of the team was doing an EVP session, and I was just taking pictures. And as I turned and looked at the director there, she was standing perfectly still. The blonde hair flew up from behind, and I snapped a picture just as she recoiled, and she took off running down the stairs. I thought she was going to leave the building, lock it up, and do this there. I caught her downstairs, and she was petrified. I mean, completely terrified. I was a police officer for 12 years, and I saw people scared, and this woman was completely, utterly, truly scared to death. And when I got down, I asked her, what just happened? And I knew that something I saw her hair go up. She had long blonde hair. And it just flew up. She wasn't touching it, nothing. Her arms were along her side. She said something just pulled my hair. And I knew I actually saw it. I saw it. I had been in the game for very long, and I saw it, And the investigation was over. She couldn't do it anymore. She was wanting to go home. And, but I would say, if you want to call that an attack, that was one that I actually witnessed. No.
I'm not sure if a hair pull would be considered an attack.
Yeah, it would go to get her attention.
It's kind of hard to justify.
Yeah. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
I said the entity could have been just trying to get her attention. I mean, unless she was actually, her hair was grabbed and thrown right to the floor, then yeah, I would see that an attack. But just lift it up and a little jerk, I mean, That could just be the entity saying, hey, I got something I want to tell you. Check this out.
Right. The intensity of it, though, scared her so bad. She took it as I guess she took it as an attack, and she was. I mean, she's completely petrified. It was something she just couldn't handle. And ironically, I asked her. I said, "Well, can we ever come back?" And she said, "Oh yeah, give me time to get over this a little bit and give us a few months, and we'll come back." So we came back a few months later. And she said she was good, everything was fine. And as we were doing, we hadn't even really started the investigation. Actually, she was downstairs in the basement. As we began to do an EVP session on one of the digital recorders, we did a playback on the recorder, which we didn't hear it with our ears. We heard it on our digital recorder later. When we did she was with us during the EVP session. When they did their digital recorders back, you could hear a voice on the recorder that said, "Get the F out."
Really?
And she just went to pieces. I mean, after that, she was done. She's like, "Okay, I'm done." So, and I just eat that up. But she's not used to that, and that was pretty intense, for her, But all that kind of stuff happens now, or even then. I just, give me more, But you kind of forget sometimes. Sometimes the people who work there and everything, they're not used to that, and you kind of get intense for them. Now, have you guys ever had anything like that happen on your own location? Maybe a person that worked there was with your investigation, or one of the employees that worked there was with you had ill experience during your investigation?
I mean, I've never done a particular location where there's a worker next to me, investigating with me. But, I have come in contact with what seems to be, evidence suggests is the best way to say it, that I might have been chatting with a former nurse or a doctor. But, I've never brought it into, a past worker into a particular location.
Right. Yeah, see, some of these places, like the Winter Fontaine, is a museum, an old museum type place, and they have really kind of some priceless artifacts there. And so they usually try, in those type of places, they usually try to leave some sort of usually the director or somebody like that is usually staying close on hand. But in most cases, like when we run into, a lot of them love the paranormal and want to investigate with us, and so we welcome them to investigate with us from time to time, and. Lots of times they'll leave either running for the car or scratching their head. So they can go either way. In that particular case, she was running for the car.
I guess we try to get the more asylums and prisons and so forth and so on. And I've interviewed past workers. Don't get me wrong, but then I ask them, hey, if you want, you can join me, and they always say, fuck you, they've witnessed enough, but, they've never really wanted to come in.
Yeah, we've been to places where they would bring their needlepoint, and so I'm going to my office, and I'm going to do my needlepoint, and I'm good. Y'all go do whatever you need to do, and I'll just be over here in my little corner, and we get that quite a bit. And the reason for that, they tell me, is, I have to be here by myself a lot, and I have to go turn off all the alarms upstairs and way down the basement and up in the attic, and I'm here by myself, and so I don't really want to see anything that might scare me when I'm here by myself. So I understand that, and most of them, a lot are females, and some of these places are pretty massive. When they go to start turning off these alarm systems, they have to go up to some of them. Like we went to a courthouse, and the female caretaker there, she has to go way up into the attic and way down and all over the place, and so it can be a pretty. It can take 20, 30 minutes to get that thing reset, or she's there. You really didn't want to see anything or be present if something was stirred up. So.
Oh yeah, definitely. Why don't we cut to our last commercial break of the evening? If Denny is there, hopefully he is. I'm pretty sure he is. And when we come back, we will. We only have probably about a half hour left. And when we come back, we'll hear more and get a lot of your information out.
Okay, that question, Jason.
I shall return in a minute.
live.
Sup, everyone. Welcome back to Ghost Chat Radio. I am your host, the Paranormal Rebel, Jason Stanton. I still have Alan in the house. Again, I'm going to encourage everyone to go to Amazon, pick up my book, Unrested Peace. You'll enjoy that tale. It's about a nice little story that had a nice little encounter I had when I was a teenager. I think these guys will love it. It has been getting some amazing reviews as it is, so people are loving it, I guess. But you'll definitely enjoy it. It's got some romance in it. It's got some paranormal encounters in it. It's got a lot of cool things that, well, quite frankly, that makes a teenage boy, you know. So you definitely don't want to miss that. September 20th, or not September 20th, excuse me. July 26th is the Palmyra, New York event. We've got multiple locations. We got 3 buildings that we have to investigate, everyone. 3 buildings. Those tickets are on sale. You're going to get a nice little speech from, well, hopefully myself and definitely the owners of DTN Look at Radio, Danny and Tiff Gager. They're definitely going to be there. I'm hoping that I'm going to be there. I'm right as of now, 90% sure I'm going to be there. But those tickets are on sale. It's, like I said, we have multiple locations. Hopefully we can even, maybe we can even do a live broadcast that night as well. Hopefully. We'll see what happens. But we have that going on. September 20th is a St. Alvin Sanatorium benefit. Like I said, everybody, you don't even have to buy a ticket for that. You can just pick up a gift card from Lowe's or Home Depot. And you're in. That's all you need. Like I said, it's a benefit for them. They want to restore the building. I want to see the building restored, which is why I'm probably the only fucking guy out there who has putting on an event where you only have to buy a gift card. I can guarantee it, I'm the only guy that's ever done it. So, I mean, we have that going on. But, yeah, we still have Alan in the house, and we're chatting about different paranormal experiences. We're talking about all the good stuff that gets into ghosts and goblins and things that go bump into the night. That, well, freaks people out, I guess you can say. So we'll continue that subject. So, as I said earlier, Alan, welcome to the show. I'm glad you came on. So far, you've been a great host.
Thank you so much. It's been great so far, and thank you so much for having us on.
Oh, definitely. I'd like to get on. I mean, we only have like a half hour left, but I'd like to discuss a little bit of history with you, actually, because yes, paranormal investigating has changed throughout the course of the thousands of years, and a lot of people don't really acknowledge it as a research that has been going on for, like I said, thousands of years. But in my honest opinion, as long as people have been staring at the sky, searching for answers from something they can't see, to me, that's investigating. I'm sorry to say, regardless if it's in a church or in some abandoned building.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. Like you say, investigating's been going on for 1,000 years. Just because the pioneer didn't have a K2 meter didn't mean he didn't investigate any less. As much as he could.
Yeah, and in my honest opinion, I think we're going to actually start to go into another really touchy subject for a lot of people. But back in the 1800s, people, they invented the witchboard and the Ouija board and so forth and so on. And I'm sorry to say, but all that is the very first paranormal investigating man-made tool.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
A lot of people tend to look at that as if it's some kind of evil thing. Sadly, I don't think it's evil. I think whatever you put into it, that's what you're going to get out of it. Which, I mean, much like any other location you go into, regardless if it's a residential house, an asylum, some kind of old prison, or whatever the case may be, you're going to get a barrage of different types of entities in there, and regardless if you're using a Ouija board or a K2 meter or a Mel meter or static meters or infrared cameras, it don't matter what you're using. You still take on that risk of something negative coming through.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, yeah. That's, and that goes with the business. I guess that's the nature of the beast. You can, like you just said, you can encounter a variety of different spirits. Some can be curious about you, some could like you, and some could be evil. it crosses over that wants to come home with you and attack your wife for the next 3 weeks, like I spoke about earlier. You just never know.
Yeah. Okay. Well, what's your take on demonic entities? Have you ever encountered one?
Well, I would say the thing that followed us home that night, that absolutely right off the bat, it woke my wife up out of sleep. It hit her. It pinched her. It pushed her down the bed where she could not get up. I mean, it really, at first, I had experienced nothing. When we got back from that investigation, I said within 24 hours it started with her. And I had not experienced anything over the next, as it began to increase in intensity. I had not seen anything at that point. I had not felt anything at that point. But after about a week and a half, then it presented itself to me. It was about, I want to say 3:30, 4, somewhere like that in the morning. And I was dead asleep. And my wife was next to me in the bed, of course. And I'm feeling this wind. I remember it so well. I kept feeling this wind, like if you were going to make the bed, and you were fanning the sheets out across the bed, when the sheets kind of flutter down, that kind of wind.
Yeah.
Opened my eyes, I actually saw the sheets on the bed flutter down. Exactly, that's where I was feeling the wind. And my first thought was, why is my wife fanning the sheets? I looked, he's under the cover dead asleep. I had felt this 3 or 4 times before he opened my eyes, and opened my eyes like on the 4th time. Then that's when I saw the sheets coming down. I was awake at that point. And the next morning, as I awoke, it was probably about 6:30 the next morning. Then I had something, I've never had anything like this happen to me. I mean, I've had paranormal experiences, seen things, heard things, that kind of thing. But as far as like a physical, I've never had anything physically touch me like it did that morning. I was laying in the bed and I was about to get up, and I just felt this overwhelming on the top of my chest. Could not get up out of the bed. Felt, how you've heard people, paranormal investigators, say they felt the evilness or they felt the negativity. I felt all of that, and could not get up. Was pushing me back against the bed, and then after just a short time, it quit and dissipated. So, getting into the demonic, I do feel that was extremely negative spirit. I do believe it was possibly demonic.
Well, negative is completely true. They're definitely going to be negative, but they're not going to be demonic.
Right. But there again, you never can tell when maybe a spirit that, even a spirit that wasn't so nice, maybe, or possibly being controlled in situations that maybe they're demonic. That's a whole, that can be a whole quagmire that you can get into. Or some spirits controlled by the demonic. That's a whole field of investigation that would be good to get into. But that was the first time I had experienced anything like that. And actually what ended it was when my wife took the Bible and walked through the house and commanded it to leave. And it did. It ended right then and there. We haven't had any more problems since then. I want to say that probably came within the full time for around 3 weeks, and that was after the investigation at the Rialto Theater. That was the only time of all the investigations we've been to that I've ever picked up an attachment that we had to bring home, and not since then. Not to say that it can't happen again, and it probably will. I'm sure it probably will at some point. Like you said earlier, you're just going to meet that right spirit that's going to have that energy that's either attracted to you or likes you or whatever, and decides to come home with you. And that's just the nature of the beast, I guess, in this type of program. But
part of the job.
What's your take on the demonic? As far as your
take on demonic, I'm not big on demons. There's not enough evidence out there to suggest it either way. And that's my big thing. I'm a guy that likes the evidence. I tend to stray away from a belief system, not because I don't think you should have a belief system, but mainly because I don't want my evidence to be persuaded in any way towards one way or the other. So, I mean, I'm not big on demonic cases. Although, even though I will say I don't think demons exist, I'll be the first guy out there to say I may be wrong. You know what I mean? So I do, ask people to if they're going to get into this field, definitely do your research, definitely do your history, definitely take everything for granted, because, you never know. Just because you think something doesn't mean you're right. And all it takes is that one time where, you're wrong, and that's it. You get all fucked up. You never know what the hell's going to happen. But,
before I got into paranormal investigating, if you were to ask me my belief system on the demonic or the spirits or stuff like that, I was one way and one way only. But since I've been in this since 2008 and been investigating, countless locations and all this stuff all this time, my belief system has changed vastly in different directions. So I'm like you. I mean, I can be wrong on some things there that I thought maybe was in stone before.
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely. I mean, getting into this field will definitely change you dramatically as far as what you believe and what you don't believe. Although when you start dealing with religious people into this field, I mean, they automatically, before you even enter the investigation, their mind is made up of what's in there. You know what I mean? And that's what I don't like. That's why I don't like having that strict belief system. But yeah, it will change your thought process on what exactly it is and how it is.
Oh yeah. How I thought the spirit world worked before I got into investigating has changed completely. Now I probably have more questions than I have answers, and that goes hand in hand with most paranormal subjects. A lot of times you come out with more questions than you had answers going in.
Well, I mean, that happens all the time. Every time you get a piece of evidence, you always want to question in that evidence. What is it? Why is it there? What is it made up of? You get all these things that randomly pop in your head. What exactly is it doing? And, why does it seem to be doing the same thing it's been doing for the last 100 years, even though it may be intelligent? And that's the biggest thing. A lot of people, they call particular cases completely irresponsible is the best way of saying it. They don't let the evidence call. They see something and they automatically say, well, that's residual, or that's got to be intelligent, or that's got to be evil, or that's got to be this, or that's got to be that. And, all they got is one quick EVP or one quick freaking, picture or whatever the case may be. And it's like, how can you base it on that? What exactly are you seeing that leads you to believe this is what it is? And I can't stand that.
Right. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Oh, yeah, I see exactly. Yeah, I agree totally with that.
Yeah. Irresponsibilities has literally, it's taken its toll in modern day paranormal society, I guess you can say. I got called in to do a case, I don't know, probably about 7 months ago. And, they had another team that was there that only spent 2 hours in the location, 2 hours in this particular place, and said there was something evil in here. So, the client calls me up, and says, I had this one team in here, and they said this, and now, Jay, I'm really scared, and I don't know what to do, and so forth and so on. I said, well, I'll go in there, I'll do a formal investigation, I'll do what I got to do, but you say there was nothing evil in there. I've never contacted nothing evil while I was there, whatever the case may be, but, I had to, it's your responsibility like that really, it irks me, it really does.
Right. Oh, yeah. And the more you get into it, the more you realize how little we do know about it, about the other realm. It's as vast as outer space, maybe more. And like I said, the way I was, which was granite stone before I got into it, I've questioned a lot of what I used to think was, this way or that way in the spirit world. And the more I get into it and the more we investigate, the more different things we try, the more I come out scratching my head, wondering, well, like you just said, you can't go into an investigation for 2 hours and say, well, it's evil, or you can't, it just you just have no idea. It can be as vast as outer space.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely, it is. There's a lot more into this than what people believe or what people think, and they definitely got to stray away from what they see on TV, definitely, and actually get out there and let the evidence unfold for itself, and spend more time in a location than 2 hours, please, because I hate going into cleaning up other teams' messes.
Oh, yeah. Well, one tactic that I heard about, and I haven't really tried it so far. I want to try it one day. I had an investigator tell me one time, they say that when they do their EVP sessions, that they don't even talk. That she'll take her digital recorder, go into a location, and not say anything, but just walk through.
Yeah.
Not letting the digital recorder or the whatever recorder just record. And when she does the playback, it hears some astounding things. Like, who is that? They're here. Stuff like that. So without even saying anything, she said she actually does better. Which, there you go. Going back to what we were just talking about, most groups are just set in stone. When we do EVP sessions, we've got specific guideline the way we're going to do it. Well, here's something totally out of the box. Just take your digital recorder, don't say a word, and walk through and see what happens.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of people out there right now. I don't know if this group is one of them. I couldn't tell you, but there's not a lot, but there's quite a few groups out there right now that are trying to use, psychological thought processes to do EVP sessions. And I've experimented with it a couple of times. But it's got to be more organized than just walking around without a recorder, sadly. But they're asking questions, in their mind to see if they get responses that way. Which, could open the doors if we can get enough evidence to solidify the fact that, you don't need to talk. It's not listening to you. It's reading your thoughts, the entity, which would be kind of cool, you know what I mean? But it's got to be more organized than just walking around with a recorder recording. I don't know if that's what they're doing. I couldn't tell you, but it's definitely got to be more organized. Normally, whenever I do something like that, I typically ask one person to ask the questions mentally, and whoever the hell that may be, whether it's me or somebody else or so forth and so on, and they write down the questions and give it to everybody so that we know what questions are being asked, and when we review the evidence, we can say, hey, when at this time, this is what we got. We didn't hear you talking, but it coincides with the question that, you wrote down on this list.
Right. Well, that's actually a good idea. I think we might try that. And we're always looking for new areas to try. That might be something we can try our next investigation. That's actually something we haven't done yet, so, that could be something we can look at.
No, it's definitely branching off into a whole other genre of paranormal investigating, I guess you can say, research. But like I said, there's quite a few teams out there that are doing it now. And, like I said, I don't know if that team that you're describing was, if that's what they were doing, I couldn't tell you. It definitely needs to be organized, you know what I mean? You just can't, start doing shit like that. It's all
exactly. One thing you could do is you could split your team up and have, if you have a vast location, like a 4 or 5 story structure, you could put someone in every 4 corners. Everybody, completely goes solitude. Everybody goes solo. Be in every corner of the institution, and then try that. And see, in the basement, one in the attic, one in the 3rd floor, one in the 4th floor. Have something written down on paper that they just look at and say in their mind, and then everybody meet back up and see what would happen. That'd be cool.
Yeah, definitely. We do have one caller in. We have the wonderful Dawn Hayden, I believe.
Yes.
She's actually starting. She's actually going to be starting a brand new show here on DTM Wicked Radio. I believe Wednesday nights, if I'm not mistaken, right, Dawn?
Thursday nights from 7 to 8, and it's going to be called Dawn at Night. I know it sounds exciting, doesn't it?
Oh, that's wonderful.
It's going to be basically every topic I could think of.
Every topic. I can think of a couple, Dawn. I can think of a
Well,
couple.
I know you can. You know, I'm going to try to keep it a little bit PG-13 rated for iHeartRadio.
Are you serious?
I'm going to try. But, you know, it's going to be a little difficult. But, you know, I'm going to try to talk about everything from adoption to women's problems to, you know, why did you start a biker gang? I mean, I just want to hit on everything. You know, some paranormal, because I do psychic work. But I want to hit on every subject.
If you get the paranormal, I'd love to be one of your guests on that. Definitely.
Oh, absolutely. I definitely want to hit on that because, you know, I've done psychic work my whole life. I have done a couple cases with Jason, which is always an interesting event.
Whenever I'm involved, it's interesting.
Yeah, it really is. Sometimes a little embarrassing, but it's always interesting.
Sometimes a lot embarrassing, but always interesting.
Okay, I'm just going to... All right, we're on Jason's show. There's usually some kind of bodily fluid involved. I'll just leave it at that. But yeah, I definitely, you know, want to do the paranormal because that is like extremely close to my heart. But I also wanted to expand it a little bit, you know, being a female. But you know, I'd love to have guys come on and give their opinion on, you know, subjects such as like, why do you think someone would cheat in a marriage? You know, I mean, just a small example, just to hit on everything.
Considering you're starting a brand new show and you've never hosted a radio show before, we have 10 minutes left on here. Why don't I let you fire some questions at Alan on the paranormal for the last 10 minutes and give you a little feel on how it's like?
That'd be great.
Oh, okay. Well, first of all, I just joined in on the show, so I confess I have not been listening. I've had difficulty trying to get on. I am a blonde. You know, what can I say? So, you, assuming you're a team, or do you work with, assuming, do you work with any kind of psychic, you know, whatever word you want to put on there, or do you prefer just use your equipment and the scientific methods?
Well, we don't have, as far as our team members go, we don't have anyone in our team who's a sensitive or a psychic or anything like that. We have in the past been acquainted with some sensitives in that area, and actually, I've put them to the test. I've put a couple of them to the test. Where we would take them to a location, and they wouldn't know anything about it whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
And we would let them do a walkthrough and come back, and they would tell me exactly what one of the people who worked there had told me before they even arrived. So that was pretty uncanny. But now, you know, as far as our equipment, our cameras, our recorders, that's where the rubber meets the road. And I tend to go more into the science and science based, but I can't totally disprove the sensitive and say, you know, hey, you can't just throw that to the road, especially when you test them out. And there was no way they knew what no way they knew what you were just telling, what they just told you, or no way they knew what the employee knew. You know.
Absolutely. That's how I personally have worked. I don't want to know anything about anything. You know,
right.
It just works better for me that way because to me it's more respect. It makes what I do more respectable. You know, because anyone can go online if you're going to a famous place. Like, let's just was just out at the Lizzie Borden house. I mean, everyone knows what happened there.
Right.
But to me, it makes what I do more legit. If it's like, if you go to a residential home, I have no idea who these people are. I have no idea what's going on. And I can tell them what's going on and, to prove it right. But another question for you, if you come from the scientific, to play the devil's advocate for a second. Now, being the interest in the paranormal field, and I always wonder this about people that, say they don't believe in psychics, or they're very skeptical, which is understandable. But since it is paranormal and there's no exact science about it, how do you feel people that are skeptical, how do they dismiss that?
Half the people that I know that would dismiss psychics, you say, or?
I mean, I always wondered, like, for example, not to get super religious or anything, but, I myself in the past have dealt with people that tend to be on the more religious side, and they say, psychic, empath, whatever is wrong and it's evil and it's the devil's work and yada, yada, yada. I've heard it all. But yet you're worshiping a paranormal entity. And no one has ever truly captured anything to prove paranormal either way. I mean, you get maybe pictures, you get EVPs, but it just makes me wonder how people kind of justify just the scientific side of it.
Oh, that's a good question. When I got into this early on, there was a spirit sensitive that he wasn't actually a member of the group. I was with another group at the time. And when he would come along on investigations, actually this was the first group I was with, Casper. When he would come on investigations, I would have more activity on my camera.
Sure.
I record. He would just follow us. And when I would look at Billy, his name was Billy, I'd say, Billy, he would say, you need to take a picture in this room. And when I would take a picture and I would look at it later, there'd be like a big red ball of light, or there would be, he would steer me into those directions. And it really saved me a lot of time. And that was really a good tool. I mean, I didn't mean to refer to him as a tool, but his knowledge of his was really, it was, I would have got a lot more activity. It did make the atmosphere more active, and we had, I think a better investigation at the time.
Right.
So, but there are hardcore people that regardless, they just will not believe that people are sensitive to spirits or people are psychic or anything like that. And I've seen it happen. I've seen it. It does exist. Every bit as much as the full body apparition walking across the hallway.
Oh, I mean, and again, to me, it is understandable. If I hadn't grown up the way I did, I could see, how it is hard to believe. But then again, I always question those people. Well, but you believe in other paranormal entities that you can't see, that you can't capture picture of, or an EVP recording of. So, how do certain people dismiss that?
Yeah, and they will believe they will go investigating ghosts all night, try to capture the full body apparition, but then they won't believe in the power that you possess, which makes no sense to me.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Definitely. Now, do you guys do more house calls, more residential, so to speak, or do you travel around to do more asylums and more active places, I guess you could say.
Well, private residence is a love-hate thing for me. A private residence is going to be the best just to investigate because they've never been investigated most times, and they'll have a lot of activity. The bad side about it, that thing is you'll have an entire family living in the private residence while you're trying to investigate. I've had them watching television while we're trying to record, which I love them for bringing us into their home. It was awesome. They didn't really have anywhere to go, but it could be a two-edged sword on an investigation. A private residence can be great, and it can be really tough to investigate. I tend to go more, and I don't get me wrong, I love private residence. If we can get a good one that's really haunted, we'll go there in a second. I tend to go more towards museums and museums and stuff like that, where you have real old history that goes down through time. That's great.
I love the idea of maybe not going to a haunted place, so to speak, but a place where you're going to have a lot of objects that hold energy.
Yeah, definitely.
And I get a lot of questions about that, and I think my explanation is, I said, say you go into a house where there's a lot of volatile energy, and it gets trapped in the walls because energy is around us all the time. I said the same thing goes for certain objects that may be held,
That's why one rule, and off the chain, is we never take anything from we go to investigate a location, we never take any object from that location back with us, ever. Because the possibility of an attachment or the artifact with you is very, very, very high.
Absolutely.
We take anything from there and take back with us, ever. I've known people that have and suffered the consequences.
Oh, that's just stupid. And you are going to suffer the consequences.
Sure.
And, it goes, and it goes the same for, people that mess around with objects. And I hate to bring up Ouija board because it's always the first thing brought up, but, people relate to it the most. It's not the actual board, it's the intention or the energy put into it or behind it.
Right.
that you have to worry about. Whether it was that or whether it was a vase or whether it was, whatever captured the energy of the circumstance that went on, and the energy stuck with that.
Right. Oh, absolutely.
So, now, do you work by yourself, or do you? I hate to keep talking if Jason's going over his time.
That's all right.
He's probably left us anyway to go have a cigarette and coffee.
I did not.
Do you work by yourself or do you work with other people? And again, you probably already answered that, but again, I just joined in, so I'm curious myself.
I work with a team. I work with a team. My wife and me have a team, and we work with them quite a bit. I have entertained the thought from time to time to go into some of our key places by myself. I've thought a lot about it, and I still do think a lot about that because I think that the possibility of catching an enormous amount of activity and being able to really bring some stuff to the table would be high. But my wife,
I totally agree. I would so much prefer to go in anywhere by myself because that's what I tend to usually do. Just because, again, it's just what I've done. Or maybe one or two other people, period, the end.
Right.
You go to these places where there's a crowd of people, and it just pushes me right over the edge because there's no way you're going to pick up on anything. It's too contaminated. You have people in there themselves that have some bad energy going on. They're big disbelievers. They're bringing in negativity. It all plays a factor.
Oh, yeah.
You know, my dream is to spend a night in a very haunted location by myself. You know, that would be the balls to the walls.
Yeah. You know, and I would love the asylum we were talking about earlier. I was foundation about. I've thought many times about going there by myself. I've only known one other investigator from Nevada that did that, and he said that he had quite a bit happen. He had but by the same token, if you're by yourself and you're alone, I think you do become more vulnerable. And you know,
I mean, Dawn knows my thing on that. I don't like people being more than eyesight out of me. If I can't see you, you're too fucking far away. And it's not because of ghosts. It's not because of evil things that knock. It's because a lot of these buildings have potential hazards. There's nails sticking out. There's loose floorboards. There's, you know, ceilings that aren't exactly safe to be walking around. There's a lot of tripping hazards, stairs, and weird places that you're not used to. And if I can't see you, and you get hurt, I don't know what to tell you. You know what I mean?
Right. But you're right. I mean, and that's where one of my flaws is that I think sometimes I have bigger balls than I actually should, and it, you know, does me more harm than good, because I go in it thinking it from the aspect of it, you know, it's a high for me to be able to get this energy and to contact something, but forgetting about the hazards. But you've definitely kept me in line there.
Yeah. The asylum I'd like to go to, and if I was to fall down one of those stairs, like on a Friday, and break a leg, it would probably be Monday before I was discovered.
True.
So, that's something, you know.
Yeah.
But anyway.
We definitely got to start closing off this show. So before we get going, Alan, if people want to contact you to get an investigation done by you, how would they go about doing that, homie?
Yes, sir. We have a Facebook page right now, Off the Chain Paranormal. We're on Facebook. We're working on a website, so you can contact us on Off the Chain Paranormal on Facebook, and we will respond as quick as we can.
Excellent. And Dawn, a wonderful friend. On that night starts Thursday night, 7 to 8 o'clock.
7 to 8. I'm working on I have a very lovely lady working on my banner. I'm totally excited. Andy.
Okay.
Tiff directed me towards her, and I actually spent the day finding a bunch of images that I feel best suit my style.
Your style.
My style. All right, basically what I told her was, think of naughty pinup girl meets fairy meets the sun and the moon.
Okay, that's what you want to go with.
Well, actually use a different word besides naughty pinup girl, but, you know.
I don't know what she's looking like a tramp in it.
Bloody pinup girl meets fairy, you know, sun and moon, dawn, night. You know, she goes, I think we'll get along just fine.
And everyone, obviously, if you want to contact me, I am live 2 times a week right here on DTM Wicked Radio. Mondays between 6 and 8, or 6 and 8:08. You know, depending on how the night's going, I guess. Tuesday nights I'm on from 9 to 11. I can't remember who the hell my guest is for tomorrow night. I'm not even in my office, but I will get all that information out on my Facebook page. So you definitely want to go to the Ghost Chat Radio Facebook page. Hit the like button. I do try to keep everybody up to date whenever I can. I wish I could do it a lot more than what I have been, but, you know, kids got to eat and I got to work, so forth and so on, which sucks ass, but it is what it is. In just under an hour, everyone, if you want to hear more from me, I'm going to be a guest on Paranormal Connections with Christina George, so... I'm
going to listen into that one.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I was her guest 2 weeks ago, and I'm going to listen in on that one.
Excellent.
Oh, yeah.
I have fun with this, though. She's cool. But anyway, I will be live on her show in just under an hour. So everyone continue to listen to DTM Wicked Radio. I know it's a lot of past time on at the computer, but it's going to be well worth it, everyone. I'm telling you. And yeah, just continue to look me up on Facebook. I don't bite. I don't do nothing. I might like a little, but I don't do anything. But continue to look me up on Facebook. Just check out Jason Stanton. I'll add me as a friend. I'll probably, say, okay, no problem, and just add you. And definitely check out the Ghost Chat Radio fan page and like that. And the DTM Wicked Radio fan page. You definitely want to like that.
Absolutely.
But until later, everyone, if you want to continue to hear my voice, and like I said, in just under an hour, Paranormal Connections with Christina George. I will be a guest on her tomorrow night between 9 and 11, right here on DTM Wicked Radio. And that's all I got.
Thank you for my plug.
That's no problem, Dawn. I always try to help people out.
Oh, yeah, you do. Bye.